and it's a daily fund. So that's why the plant was growing.
So the bond has come due now, or?
Yes, there is a bond that's, we have, is it 7 bonds, Charlie?
Yes,
out there?
7 bonds we have.
Frank, do you mind if I make my statement? That way
Sure.
I address some of the kind of misinformation that's been put out there, and then you guys can kind of go through the questions. Okay. I appreciate it. So, members of the Sewer Commission and the public, I'm here as the mayor, but more importantly, as a member of the public, because of this, and I have 2 businesses that use the sewer. And I'm here to call foul on the Sewer Commission's proposed rate increases. The normal yearly budget is $2.4 million. The proposed debt service charges of $3.34 for residential, $8.66 for commercial, are clearly intended to raise $4.3 million. The outstanding debt that's owed to the town. Now, in the course of 1 year. You know I've never asked, ladies and gentlemen of the Sewer Commission, you know that I've never asked for, required, or even hinted at such a ridiculous proposal. And yet, by proposing these rate increases, you have terrified your residential customers, shaken the faith of our commercial investors, some of whom have invested millions of dollars in our town. And you've undermined my efforts to bring industry and jobs into New Milford. Because when these investors ask me for some assurance that our Sewer Commission will not triple their sewer rates in a year, what can I tell them? Somebody has been playing politics with people's pocketbooks. The goodwill in the business community this town has worked so hard for over the years with one piece of paper has been seriously undermined. If anybody thought that by holding hostage the residential, commercial, and industrial customers that I would agree to forgive the $4.3 million debt owed to the town, those individuals sorely miscalculated. You all took an oath when you agreed to serve on this commission. The underlying premise of that oath is that you would act in the best interest of the town, not any political party. Some of you are willing to work to do what is right for the town. Anybody else that voted for this proposed increase as some kind of statement against me should resign. I endorse a modest increase in fees from $4.50 to $5.30 with no debt service charge and a small unit charge increase of $20 for residential and $25 for commercial. But the WPCA must also institute fundamental changes in how it conducts its business. Set a schedule and require all commercial businesses within the sewer district to hook up to the sewer. Revise the connection fee schedule to make it easier and cost efficient for people to hook up to the sewer. Because by doing that, you're going to increase usage fees and you're going to decrease the burden on all the people in this room. I want you to work with me. I'd like to salvage what we can so the town is in a stronger and healthier position going forward. I believe that is possible and look forward to more reasonable discussions in the future. So I thank you, and I'm going to give this to your secretary, if you can pass this down, both my letter from yesterday and my comments today to be entered into the minutes. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions? Would we please have you step up to the podium and address the commission for any questions you may have?
Public comment.
There's a little sign here, Frank.
Oh, okay, sorry. Hastings is the last name. Roseanne Hastings?
Roseanne Hastings. I live on Pleasant Street for almost 30 years now. This increase would just devastate me. My husband is disabled. I work 2 jobs to keep a roof over our head. There is no way we could afford this increase, which I'm sure a lot of these other people couldn't. It would come down to the line that I would probably have to put my house up for sale. And I've done everything in my power to keep that house. But this isn't just a little increase. I'm already paying $600 a year. I don't know how much more I could possibly pay. That's it.
Tom Pillow?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, ladies and gentlemen, Mayor. I walked in your shoes over 30 years ago, and it's not easy. At that time, the town was in the precipice of expansion of the plant and renovating. It was an old plant that started in 1958. The process took a lot of people into the discussion, and we had meetings that had attendance 5 times this. In fact, our beautiful movie theater would be too small. But people partook in the conversation. And successfully, the plant was expanded. The sewer system is the centerpiece of our town's infrastructure, the catalyst to the economic viability of our community. Without our sewer system, the town's center, our hospital, senior facilities, housing opportunities, and commerce wouldn't exist as we know it today. Over the last 30 years, public health in our community has improved dramatically because of one of our sewer systems. Major failing septic systems, sludge handling from outside the sewer district was mitigated. The state's fiscal difficulties have made the economic realities for our customer expansion within our sewer system an arduous task. Fixed asset replacement. And I know I've talked to the commission members and Rob and staff and Charlie, and they do a beautiful job. Should be budgeted, not debt. The debt is on the good faith and credit of the municipality. No different than the $50 million debt for a high school. We have a kid in school or not, it's an asset to the community. We built a high school based on a 1,400 population. If a year later 14 kids show up, you still got to pay the debt. But sewer users should not pick up any of the debt. As you bring on new users through connection fees, whatever you recapture, that can be transferred to the town to offset some of the debt. But in the budget of nearly $2.5 million, what's very important is fixed asset replacement. It's called depreciation. In the 80s, we started that, and it worked very well. And fixed asset replacement is a depreciation based on the assets of the sewer plant and system, and it worked very well. And many of your improvements were funded through that without coming to the taxpayer to do bonding. So I recommend that the commission look at that. You may not be able to do it at 100% because you're only at 0.6 MGD of capacity, so you can't depreciate a 2 million gallon plant on the small customer base you have, but start to phase that in over the years. The town's real property tax base, which is tangential in conversation to where everybody's here today. The town's the real realities of real estate. And everybody in this room has got skin in the game. The $2.5 billion in the 5-year revaluation dropped 2% or 0.02. 0.02 of 2.5 billion is 50 million. 50 million at your current mill rate is $1.3 million loss in real estate tax revenue. That hurts. The values hurts everybody that's in this room. The commission should only approve a budget with operating expenses only, not debt recapture. Because that burden is going to be placed on everybody in this room and the whole district. And that's not what it's about. And some people in this room who've been there for decades have already paid a benefit assessment for the original expansion. Some people in this room have already paid a hookup fee or a connection fee, whatever we use all different kind of names, to connect into the system. So by putting debt into the budget, what's happening is they're paying twice. Excessive sewer rates is an anathema to the success of our community and its residents. Therefore, I request that the commission not approve these fees, go back and revisit your budget, and only in your budget, and my recommendation as a sewer user and resident, that only items to the operation and maintenance of the plant should be considered. No debt service. That burden should not be placed on the users. Thank you.
Jim Tupko?
Thank you for the opportunity to address the commission. My name is Jim Tupko, and I'm the president for Aspetuck Condominium Association. I represent approximately 294 owners who own $16.5 million in real estate at Aspetuck Village. In addition, there's 135 renters that reside there. Last year, I received a 21% increase in my sewer taxes, as did the association for its laundry room use. The proposal for another 52% or larger increase is unacceptable to our association and the 430 voting individuals at Aspetuck for whom this proposal will negatively impact. The proposed increase will not only raise the cost for the owners, who will be forced to pass this on to the renters, but for the association for whom costs will also rise. This will most likely force us as an association to raise our monthly common charges or reduce our yearly maintenance programs. And if the poor management of the Sewer Commission income or policies is the reason for this proposed large increase, then the Commission needs to take responsibility for this and not place the burden of its poor business practices on the individuals that they serve. Since the mayor claims he cannot dictate how the Commission runs its plant, then someone needs to take responsibility for this financial fiasco. In the world of corporate America, someone would lose their job over these poor business practices. I understand that some salaries at the Commission are $90,000 a year. Take a pay cut and take responsibility for this problem. Whoever came up with this approach to raise taxes on the voters and users of your services should be fired. Thank you.
Last name is Gabriel. It's signed up, you can't read the first.
My name is Debbie Gabriel, and I live at Gabriel Circle. I've owned that house. My parents bought it when I was 2 years old, and I pay $827 per year for the sewer tax. And I'm working 2 jobs, and it's a financial hardship for myself and my family. That's all it is.
Carl Dunham.
I moved up fast.
Carl Dunham, I live at Tandler Mountain, been there all my life. I want to commend the Sewer Commission for having done a wonderful job in addressing the new plant. The new plant was mandated on you based on the fact that you needed to deal with nitrogen and that they wanted excess capacity. So I really don't think you guys should be the guys that are taking the heat. I think you did a great job building it. I think Ken did a great job organizing it. And I frankly think it's a great thing for the town. The problem has come with a number of things. And to Tommy's point, I really think the sewer is a benefit to the entire town. To the extent that you're encouraging people to bring their businesses, to operate their businesses, to expand their businesses, that's a benefit to the town. That's going to build the tax base. It's going to generate employment. It's going to do a lot of things that we need in today's economy, in today's situation. So I think it's something that we have as a good asset. I think it was well conceived. We didn't have a lot of choice about it, but once we did, it was well done. So I, to Tommy's point, feel that basically this is a responsibility of the town. Everybody benefits from sewer. It's not just the people that are hooking in. It's a benefit to the entire town. And as such, I think the obligation should be that of the town. The Sewer Commission attempts in every way to try to make your operation efficient. You have 2 issues. One is you've got to operate efficiently, and that costs money. And the problem is without the gallonage that you were looking to get, you're having to spread that cost over a smaller volume. So I encourage that people look to increase the use of the sewer, and by doing so, it's going to make your efficiencies much better in the operational side, and at the same time, it's going to enhance business opportunity and employment in the town. One of the things that I've been pushing for quite a while is to expand the sewer district. You have the sewer district, which you push down Route 7, and that was forced by the fact that you had to make a decision given that the highway was coming in. But I've been encouraging both the Planning Commission and the Sewer Commission to increase the sewer district to go up Route 7, up Boardman Road, to address a lot of the properties that could be future good assessments for you. Not only that, they could bring in more business and the like. And that decision was kind of halted at the mayor's office in the prior administration. I don't know what it was that stopped it, but I think that's something that should be considered. It should be encouraged. In that way, you'll have more properties to hook up. I think it's kind of hard. I mean, you've got a hard job in forcing people that already have a septic system south of town to hook up when everything's functioning. And that could very well be because of the fact that the soils are relatively good in that area. Obviously, any new person should be forced to hook up. Anything that comes before zoning for permission should be required to hook up into the sewer. And that's what it's there for. So I think there has to be coordination in all of the commissions in town. There has to be an encouragement for business. It doesn't do any good. I mean, this whole thing was created with the idea that we're going to grow. And if every time somebody comes in with a project, and if it doesn't quite meet people's personal ideas as to what they should see, I think they have to look at things for the betterment of the whole town. I could cite projects that have gone awry, which would have put us in a much better position. One of them was Sempra. And people don't like that because it got very popular to go against it. But there was a plant that was going to produce 540 megawatts of energy. Now we're looking at for 20 and 20 and 20. Take things offline and be a big tax base. It's things like that that need to be encouraged and supported in this town if it's going to grow. So I don't think you should be the people that are hammered. I don't think there should be an increase. But I think everybody should be working toward having a more viable, future-looking town. Thank you.
For Don D'Agostino.
Don and Vinny are outside parking. I'll be third on the list if you'd like. May I speak ahead of them?
Sure. Go ahead, Steve.
Good. Good evening, everyone. My name is Steve Sauce. I work in management of personal touch car washes. Good evening, Commission, residents. For everyone that spoke already, you all make excellent points, so I'm not going to rehash them. I'm going to tell you what an end user of a car wash has to deal with should the rates rise. My personal feeling would not be welcome in the room, even with the owners of my company. What you're proposing is a business killer. In my business, when I raise prices just to cover things that are mandated on us through cost of labor in the state, things of that nature, well, hell breaks loose, for lack of a better term. The customers are not happy. And I'm talking about minimal percentage increases. What you're proposing is to put us out of business. I can't pass on a 42% price increase or $3.05 a car to anybody in this room that comes to our car wash. So it's a deal breaker. It would cost us in excess of $1 to produce a clean car the right way, not in a driveway, not leaking oil and things all over the streets and into the storm drains and things like that into local streams, which what people would do when they wash their cars at home, use products they're not supposed to use. It's a business killer. And as a manager that manages 2 washes here in the town, I think that you really need to step back and look at how it affects everybody, whether it's somebody working 2 jobs that's saying, hey, I got to make a decision here, or businesses in this town, maybe not everyone wants to speak and say, hey, this is a huge mistake. Everybody lives, and it always seems like to us it's a pie-in-the-sky thing. I had to deal with sales tax last year from the governor. Said it's not going to happen. Then he slammed us with a sales tax increase. It's all pie-in-the-sky, rainbows, and all this beautiful stuff that we plan for. The reality is you have to plan for the most conservative end of the business, not this pie-in-the-sky number. Everybody's going to love it. We're going to write our checks right out there. We're going to hook up and we're going to get the job done and everything's great. That doesn't happen in the real world. As a business operator, I would be fired for what you're proposing. I couldn't do that to my customers. They would leave in droves. The residents of this town deserve better. The commission, maybe you didn't create this monster. You certainly have to deal with it. In our business, we budget maintenance. We budget capital investment. We take and move our capital investments the right way to cover new equipment, things that need to be done. That's how we run our business. But to propose something as drastic as this would force us to eliminate jobs, cut services, not be able to donate to the town. Everybody that comes to Personal Touch Car Wash for free car washes, charity things, we're doing a fundraiser, we're doing this, we're doing that. It's gone. It's over. Because we can't support and run a deficit. We go out of business. And that's what this is a business killer. And the residents, they're going to feel it even more. Because there's nothing that they can do other than to work more hours, to make more money, to pay for something that was supposed to be all the residents and the businesses are hooked up to, and we can all survive. In this way, there's no survival. It's not going to happen. Okay? Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Dom, did you want to speak?
Hi, my name is Dominic DiAgostino, and I'm the owner of Personal Touch Car Washes. I've got 2 of them in town, and I wholeheartedly oppose to the proposed increase in sewer rates. To attempt to find out why the proposed rates are to increase, I reviewed the Sewer Commission minutes on January 11th, February 1st, and February 29th. Mayor Gronbach was present at those meetings, and they were warned as payment of sewage obligation bonds and workshop to discuss rates and charges for fiscal year 2016.
Actually left early, sir.
2017. At February 29 meeting, the minutes state Mayor Gronbach suggested increasing the residential rates because they are low. It was also said $12.50 is the model used for rates and charges, with the hope that the number might come down as the debt service comes down. Later in the meeting, Frank Bedetti asked if the town could continue to pay 26.95% of the debt like they had been. The mayor then said that the commission should focus on paying 100% of the debt. It is clear from the minutes that the proposed increase in usage fees is a direct result of Mayor Gronbach's directive to this commission that they start with paying 100% of all debt obligations. As a business owner, I'm extremely disappointed to see that yesterday the mayor has now contradicted his directives given to the Sewer Commission at their meetings. To now claim that these proposed rates were done without the mayor's knowledge or input is dishonest and disingenuous. When the business owners and residents expressed outrage at the mayor's irresponsible proposal, he attempted to hide from it yesterday by making a statement which misinforms the citizens of our town. After review by my accountant, the mayor's revised proposal rate increases will do nothing to assist the WPCA to pay back its debt to the town, but simply cover their operating and maintenance expenses. If the commission is to consider approving the original rates, as requested by the mayor, I will be forced to significantly raise my rates, which will certainly lead to a decline in business and force me to reconsider my future business in the town of New Milford. If I am thinking this way, and I'm stuck here, how on the earth would any business want to relocate to New Milford? Thank you for your time.
Vinny, would you like to speak? Yeah.
Thanks, guys. So what I wanted to say is that I feel betrayed, you know. We've got 2 car washes in town. We put a lot of money into this town. And then to almost quadruple the sewer rates, it's it feels dishonest. You know, we pay over $42,000 a year in taxes between the real estate, personal property taxes. And this increase it's just too much. It'll literally bankrupt us. Basically, you know, the car washes can't support that. And really, after the investment we've made, it just doesn't seem right. That's it.
Mayor Gronbach, would you like to speak again?
Yes, thank you.
Is this a political discussion we're having here, or is this
Is anything I've said
is this
political so far?
a hearing from the people that are paying the taxes, not the politicians that are
I
making
paid the
speeches?
taxes too, sir. I have two
I pay a
businesses.
hell of a lot more taxes than you do, I can tell you that right now.
Did you sign up on the sheet?
Yes, I
Street?
did. I absolutely did, and I'm fourth on that list, and I'm wondering why
Let 'em go.
7 or 8 other people haven't talked before I got up there.
I'll go after everybody else has spoken.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Come on up.
First of all, my name is Joseph Pizzenti, and I don't want to get in a political conversation between the sewer commission and the mayor of this town. I think the rates that he has suggested today are in line with what they should be. I'm going to talk about facts. I own a commercial building, 10 Railroad Street in Milford, Connecticut. It's a mixed-use building with a rooming house on the second and third floor and a restaurant that does a lot of food business and uses a lot of sewer on the first floor. Okay, I went back and I looked at the sewer rates over the last 5 or 6 years on my bills. Okay? All right. In 2010, our sewer bills are twofold. You get charged for every bathroom you have in the building, a certain rate, and then you get charged for per 1,000 gallons of sewer used. And over the last 5 or 6 years, the rate basically, back in 2010, was $188 for the bathroom. It went up to $204. It stayed at $204 for 3 years, then went up to $225. And this year, I think it went up to $275, and now they want to make it $350 if these figures that they're going on this pamphlet that was sent out are true. Okay? So having just 8.5 bathrooms and you're paying $75 more, that's $600 more a year I'm paying just on the bathrooms. But the real cost for me is in the fact that I'm using last year, and I will be using more this year because the restaurant that's in there now is doing much more business than the previous restaurant. I used 573,000 gallons of sewage. Okay? Which last year's rate was $450. That rate has gone up moderately over the last 5 years. $3.75 in 2010, $4 in 2013, $4.50 2016. Now, according to this pamphlet, it's going to go up to $16. So my sewer bill is going to go up 151.5%. It's going to go from $491 to $12,000. Okay? That's just one expense that I have in my business. Okay? On a different subject, I just got my assessment bill from the town, and my assessment on my building went up 76%. Okay? That's just the assessment on the building. Okay? My point is, I understand, I read the paper every day, I understand that the whole thing started when the state mandated that the capacity for the sewage facility be increased. Okay? Along with the fact that the population in the town was increasing and that the development along Route 7 was increasing and you needed more capacity. That's my understanding. I might be wrong, but that's my understanding. I have a few questions for the Sewer Commission. My first question is, Where was the old sewer line on Route 7 before you made the expansion, and where is it now? I understand it goes all the way down to the Brookfield line. Is that correct?
150 feet shy of it.
150 feet shy. So during the course of this discussion, when you were borrowing money for this expansion, did anybody do a market analysis of the property owners from the new shopping center or Kohl's and Big Lots and all them? Basically, let's be honest, they did the expansion for the shopping center, and the proposed shopping center that's down the street, it's still sitting there, the property's still sitting there, where the old car wash used to be. There was going to be a shopping center there. There's nothing there. Did anybody on the sewer commission do a market analysis of who was willing to hook up to the sewer, how much it would cost them? And they amortized that figure over so many years so they would get a general idea. It's going to cost them $1,000 a year extra. You know, I've had experience hooking up the sewer lines for houses, for buildings. You know, the town comes and they tell you, we borrowed so much money. If you want to hook up, it's going to cost you this amount of money. We're going to borrow it at a cheap interest rate, and this is what it's going to cost you. Did anybody on the sewer commission do a market analysis of all these people from the new shopping center all the way down to the Brookfield line? Did anybody do that?
This commission was not in place during that time. Anybody that's sitting here right now.
Well, there was a sewer commission.
That's correct.
Are you aware that if there was a market, a survey done of all that property?
So, Charlene, do you know that answer that question?
There was, the state obviously did it before when we were going to expand the sewer plant itself. The state mandated us to do the new plant, and that was where the gallonage was going to be available. This wasn't something that we wanted to do. This was something that they told us we would do, and they also told us how much gallonage that we would have to have. And they go by the sewer service area, and that, by the way, is through the state also. So they're the ones that do we do have studies, but they're the ones that mandate us to do what we have to do.
Well, somebody had to make this.
I'd like to make a response. Scott Chamberlain, member of the commission and town councilman. First of all, I'd like to dispel a notion, and that is that the rates that you've been paying or that the rates you will be paying are in any way based on economics or surveys or utilization or anything else than that. One of the reasons that we have the problem that we have is that we have been guilty, we as a town, of kicking the can down the road. Essentially, what has happened is for 12 years now, this entity has run at a deficit. Okay? The sewage use in this town has been subsidized by 30,000 people, so it's artificially been kept low. And essentially what's happened is that a chit, an IOU, has been sent to the city for what came up short, okay? So that the rates could maintain status quo or approximate level. What's happening now, the problem we have now, the crisis that we're facing as a city, is that we have this asset on our books, $4.5 million, okay? The auditors tell us that it can't be an asset any longer if we don't have a reasonable prospect of...
Accounts receivable. Can't
Right.
be accounts receivable.
Yes. If there's no reasonable prospect of getting paid on it, you can't carry it as a receivable. So it becomes a problem for the city. It becomes a problem for the commission. Now, I want to make something clear, because there has been a significant misconception here. The mayor didn't want this plan. The mayor didn't ask for this plan. In fact, on the night this plan was voted on and passed by the commission, the mayor wasn't there. How do I know the mayor wasn't there? Because the mayor and I left to be at the city council. If you look at the record, when that vote was taken, Mayor Gronbach and myself were sitting here at this table conducting the business of the city.
I think
For what
we
it's-
have another political. You have another political discussion about where you were and where the mayor was. I'm talking about paying my sewer tax.
And I'm telling you that we don't endorse what's on your red sheet.
Well, what do you endorse?
This.
The one the mayor in his opening speech.
The one that's on the mayor's site. Yes.
The one the mayor said tonight. Modest increase in other words, a modest increase of the rates now. So you're kicking the can down the road again.
No, that's not correct, because essentially our position is that there has to be a multi-level addressing of the problem. First, we have been very remiss in allowing people not to connect. There has to be universal mandatory connection. That's one thing.
Why didn't you have that from the beginning?
Well, because we have a health department that have had a health department that would allow exceptions, spot exceptions. You've got that beautiful Citgo station facing Pettibone School. Guess what? That's on a septic. Nothing that big should be on a septic. I'm sorry. And if the owners of that station are here, I apologize to you, but something that big does not belong on a septic when you've got a sewer running right in front of it. But that was approved by the town. Now, by the health department.
You're common council, right? You're still on the common council? Don't you have any oversight of that?
They control, hook up the sewers, is what you're saying?
They have an existing septic system that has not failed.
Correct. Yes, that is.
So they're allowed to, because it's not a failed system, they're allowed to stay on.
But they revive it, just put a new one in.
Let me ask another question. Who the state to decide how far this new sewer line was going to go on Route 7, north of the bridge and south of the bridge? I know it goes down south of the bridge, almost to the Brookfield line. Who decided, what entity decided to go from that big shopping center and that supposed shopping center that's not there?
Charlene?
We had a vote in here to expand the sewer lines. I'm not sure when it happened, I just know I was here. And it was because we could get such a good grant from the state. They helped put that line down. We only had to pay 20% versus 100%. And we got a really good rate for that. So it was the decision. It came to the town voted on it and said, yes, let's put that down Route 7. It was at the time.
Why didn't you mandate at that point that the people that were located along that line had a hookup to that line?
I would have loved it because I do the money there, so I would have loved it. But there's certain legal ways that you have to go about doing that, and it can be very costly to do that. So then you end up having to put them in yourself sometimes if you mandate somebody and they won't do it. We're not in the business to put in sewer lines. We don't want to do sewer connections, not lines, sorry, sewer connections. We don't want to get involved in that. And when you go down the legal procedure, that's what could end up happening. And so then we backed away. We don't want to get involved in that. If they're changing the use, this has been in our regulations for quite a while now. If you change the use, we are going to go to the commission and say, we're going to probably make you connect to the sewer line. Because we're saying we're not getting any connections. We get a few a year, and it's just not enough.
How much let's ballpark figure, you own a small, like for instance, that little jewelry shopping center down there.
Plus by square foot.
How much would it cost for them to hook to the sewer? How much?
Connection fee, $2,500.
The hook up to the $2,500.
We're not doing the plumbing for you. But the
That's just the
fee
connection charge.
would be $2,500.
So they can get their septic pumped out every 2 years or every 3 years for $300 because they only have one bathroom in each one of those little stores. So why would they hook up?
The person, well, they would be an investment in their property. The owner of the property would. Maybe they wouldn't.
Well, they can do that at any time. If they decided to sell, they can do it this year, but they didn't have to do it 10 years ago.
Well, the sewer would afford them, extra parking, extra square footage. You're using less of your land mass because you no longer need the fields. Okay, you could grow up.
No.
You're not limited to the size, the footprint of your property. That's the real benefit assessment of the sewer. So now they would tie into our sewer, as opposed to what? As opposed to repairing a septic system. So I've had many conversations with people. I'm sorry, by the way, my name is Robert Pedelko, I'm the superintendent. I personally spent $29,000 on my septic system a couple of years ago. I live in Danbury, but it is relevant. I, one property owner, paid $29,000. That's how much a septic system cost me to put in. And I did a lot of the work myself, I have to say. I mean, including jackhammering through my floor and bringing the pipe down, et cetera, et cetera. But that is the cost of it. And I think that's one of the problems that we have right now is people don't understand the true cost of what we're facing. And I think everybody wanted the Route 7 double lanes expanded all the way down. And when the state said, hey, we're going to do it and we're going to do your sewers for you, I think most people would have said, rightfully so. Wow,
yeah, well, one thing happened.
A very good deal.
One thing happened between the time that the state mandated you to expand the sewer system in 2016, and they call it a depression. That happened in 2008. Okay, that's why that large shopping center. And by the way, that large shopping center over there, which even today, which has been taken over by new owners. And by the way, who would have rented anything in that shopping center in the last 4 years? When you had that Panera Bread framework sitting there with rotten wood sticking out there, who would possibly want to rent inside of there? I didn't see the city try to clean up that blight. Okay, those empty stores that are there that have bathrooms. There's bathrooms in those empty stores, right? Is that shopping center owner paying the bathroom fee for those empty vacant stores?
Yes, he is, sir. He's
Yeah.
paying for every one of them.
Okay.
And I thank him very much.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem I have. 10 years later, you're trying to put the burden on the people in this town that have been paying. I personally been paying sewer tax for 25 years in this town. Okay, and property tax, and fire tax, and any other kind of tax they come up with. Okay. And you should have mandated that if the sewer line goes by your property, you got to hook up. It's hard to believe that a service station of that size is going to be allowed to have a septic tank there. Okay? So I think there's a little blame that should go all around, including the former mayor. I'm not going to talk about the current mayor because he's just came into office, and from what he said tonight, these seems like reasonable changes that can be lived with. But to put the burden on everybody else in this town that have been paying sewer taxes for the last 30 years is insanity. And I'm not going to be able to make a living.
Joseph?
Just my property tax and my sewer tax has gone up over $20,000. And that's, I know a lot of other people want to talk, so I'm done.
Thank you, Joseph. Mayor Gronbach.
I'll be brief, and it won't be political.
I don't think that's possible.
Yeah, I suppose so. It's the nature of the beast now. I'll just address one thing, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not, first of all, not saying next year pay back the $4.3 million. That's why you got hit with this incredible debt surcharge. I said, hey, I don't care if you pay back over 15 years, 20 years, 30 years. But the sewer commission's got to pay it back 100%. You know what? I didn't make the decision. I never said the town expects to get paid back. The former administration did. They listed this debt, this $4.3 million that the sewer commission owes to the town. It's listed on our books as an account receivable. If you're not in business, what that means is we expect to get paid with that. I didn't make that determination. And those books get audited by our auditors. And our bond rating, you know, we go out to bond. We just did the turf fields, $4 million. Our roof at Scattercoke for $2 million. Any kind of project is based on, we bond. And that rating is based on our surplus, a big part. So we got $4.3 million that the town has previously said we expect to get paid back on. We expect to get paid back cash on this. So now I come in here, and within 2 weeks, they say, "Want to forgive that debt?" I say, "No." "Well, forgive half of the debt." "No, I can't. We've already said we're going to get paid back." But what I could do is work with you and say, you don't have to put it on the backs of the users on 1 year or 2 years or 3 years. Put it out over 20 or 30 years. I mean, we charge septic companies to dump their sludge and stuff into our, we get paid for that, into our sewer system. So we get revenue from there. We get revenue from other sources. It doesn't have to be all at once. So I'm not saying that pay back next year, but I also can't say We can't pay it back. You're not going to pay it back. I can't say you're forgiven for $4.3 million because for 10 years now, we've been telling the world, we've been telling auditors and banks and bond people that we're going to get paid back this debt. And they relied on that. And if I say now, we're not going to get paid back, well, guess what? You're going to pay either way. Your taxes are going to go up. $4.3 million, that's about 4% of our budget. 4% of the entire budget, $4.3 million. So your taxes are going to go up 4% right off the bat. Everybody's taxes. So what if I said, this is a good debt, we'll put a plan into place where we can get paid back this accounts receivable over 20, I don't care how many years it is. If it's $100 a year, at least we could show it's coming down. But what I can't allow is for the debt to continue to increase. I can't let the town pay $1.9 million on debt payments and the sewer commission only pays $1 million. Because that $900,000 difference is what's been added to this accounts receivable. That's why we got up to $4.3 million. And I can't allow that to happen. It's been happening forever, 10 years. But it's got to stop. So we got a modest increase that doesn't kick it down the road, allows the sewer commission start paying at least its debt, and then we can start worrying about that other big $4.3 million. And that's it. And it's not just increases. Like it said, 100% connection. I went through the ordinances today. The town statute says the sewer commission can require anybody on the sewer line to connect. So you're right. Why wasn't it done? Because they didn't have to. If they don't have to pay back this debt, then what do I care if we're operating efficiently? If I've got 100%, hookups. So you got to do it, and it's hard and it's painful, but that's the way. That's the best common sense approach. But you're not going to get slammed with these fees. It's not going to be on your back. But at the same time, I can't just ignore it. I can't just wipe it out. Yes, sir.
I have a question, sir.
Sure.
At your proposed rate, how many years, I guess, would it take to actually pay down the debt? Because most debt.
The debt itself. The debt, I'm not worried about the debt. As long as it comes down a little bit, it could be 20 years, 30 years. This rate gets you to start so that the debt doesn't continue to increase.
No, I got that.
Yeah.
Good with numbers.
Yes.
But what I'm trying to find out is, will my kids' have to pay this debt at your proposal?
No, because
how many years?
Here's the variable. It's not one thing or another. No, here's the thing. It's not one thing or another. If everybody gets hooked up, right now, let's use the Citgo station. If they required that Citgo station to hook up, right, that's maybe like a $20,000 connection fee or something, whatever it is. I don't know. And then the usage fees that they're paying over the course of 10, 20, 30 years, that continues to pay down our debt. And that's everybody. Multiply that by 50, 100 times. So you got to get everybody hooked up first. And then how many years does that take? Listen, I don't know. It's year by year. As long as the debt doesn't go up and it starts getting paid down, we get people connected, we get more business in town. That's what we're talking about. It's fundamental stuff. But we don't even have a fundamental basis for this organization to just break even. And that's where I'm trying to get it to.
I got that, sir.
Yeah.
But what's the projected goal? I know you don't have the power to maybe go with, you can't change the past.
Mm-hmm.
So I got that. Excuse my French, it's a shit sandwich.
So we're all taking a bite, right?
But how do we all come together so this way we alleviate that sandwich and we take little bites versus how we eat the whole sandwich? The reason why time frame is important is the following. For me, I'm a two-tour Afghanistan veteran.
Thank you for your service.
I bought this. The only reason I'm telling you that wasn't for the fact. Thank you. I invested in this community because my recent deployment, my wife was crazy enough to tell me I was going to move. So I actually bought and invested into Milford when I was in Afghanistan. Right now I'm young enough where I guess I can work an additional job. However, my concern is not for my personal gain, but more for, at some point I would like to move my in-laws. Call me crazy, I should keep them away. Move them from Danbury to New Milford, but when you move people that tend to be a little bit more seasonal. I won't say old because then I'll get jumped in here. They live on a fixed income. And when you have a fixed income, you're not able to get that first or second or third job. So that's one aspect of the problem. The second aspect of the problem, which I told my wife, because I figured it'd be a calculated risk to invest in the Milford because the school system is top notch. And two, it seemed like we were up and coming as far as businesses coming in. What it sounds like by hearing people jump on each other for different reasons, rightfully so, because everybody, I guess, wants to be right, is how do you come to that happy medium where we can all come together as a community? And that's why I asked you, what's the time frame? Because
And I can't tell you. I know what you're saying.
without that,
I can't say.
we're going to be back here at some point.
It depends on how we get everybody hooked up. How fast can we get 100% of the businesses hooked up?
What
Is
your
there a
goal?
plan for
5
that?
years? Is it 10 years?
Yes, we're working on a plan.
That's part of what I think he's asking.
Yeah.
Is what's the plan?
What's your proposed plan, since the words from the commission, and I believe yourself, sir, was that based on policy and doctrine of the community, you can kind of enforce people to hook up as long as they're on the line.
Right.
So most businesses, and I'm not a businessman, I'm just happen to talk too much, and I military, is their concerns from a business standpoint, and I'm not a business person, I'm just a residence person, is if you require them to hook up, is it a year from now?
No.
Is it 2 years from now?
No, man. I'm thinking, and this is just me spitballing. I mean, like I said, I'm not the commission, but in my mind, 5 years seems like a reasonable number to say all the commercial businesses on the sewer line should be hooked up. But that's just me. They might tell me that I'm crazy, but that seems reasonable to me.
Is there someone in the commission that could give, I guess, a proposed time frame of when you expect businesses to hook up?
Well, if I may, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hi. The answer is twofold. We have two issues that we're facing. One is, how do we get through this year? And then we have, how do we resolve the problem on a long-term basis? And what makes it difficult is that there are a number of answers to your question. There is not one big cause. Well, what the red sheet of paper attempts to do is to throw out a 1 year, totally unacceptable answer. That's not what we support. Now, one of the ways that we're going to get through this year, and I'm talking about getting through this year because you've got to get through this year to get to the solution. One of the problems I have with the budget as it's being proposed is an issue brought up by Mr. Pilla, and that is, we call it depreciation, call it capital investment, whatever.
I'm going to sit down. I'll let you guys. I've said what I had to say, so you guys get into it.
One of the problems I have is putting $400,000 into a depreciation fund for future investments at a time when we're significantly raising rates and we can't pay our debt. To me, it's like being behind on your car, getting your car repossessed, and you're saying, well, I can't pay my car note because I'm saving for my new car. That on a consumer level, that doesn't work. So what we're suggesting is we defer the start of capital investment. And by the way, the Commission wasn't doing capital investment for the last 12 years, so the fact that they are not doing capital investment for 13 years, frankly, is not, to my thinking, that big a deal. Once we get past that, we're looking at a bunch of things. We're finding money to subsidize the operation elsewhere in the budget. So ultimately, you will see all 30,000 citizens bearing some burden of the operation of this agency, okay? So it's not like your thing. We are going to ask you for some more money, no question, because in fairness, you're getting the biggest benefit from this thing, this sewer system,
Not exactly.
Well,
I've been paying 25 years. I paid off the first bond.
Well,
that expansion does nothing for me and my 15 ground units.
Well, no, that's not exact.
I've been paying for 38 years, and I agree with him. We got stuck, as Bill alluded to earlier, with paying it the first time. And now we're going to pay for something that absolutely does not benefit us other than in taxes in the town, but from a sewer standpoint doesn't do anything.
But sir, with all due deference, what you're saying is a non sequitur. To give you an example, I've been here for almost 25 years. How many times have we paid for Route 7? Well, it's an ongoing expense. I mean, it has to be improved, it has to be widened, it has to be resurfaced, and we all get use out of it. I don't care if you are the furthest person in Mariol or Gaylordsville or whatever. You come to town, you use the bathroom, you use the car wash, you're getting utilization out of it. Maybe not as much as you'd like, but you're getting utilization. And the bottom line is, for us to exist as a municipal entity, we have to do it. Sorry, end of discussion. That's that.
Right.
And it has to be paid for by somebody.
By the same logic, the entire town is benefiting from the expansion and the money spent for it, and therefore the entire town should be paying for this.
Well, the town is, and let me explain how. For the last 12 years, this agency hasn't made enough to pay its bill. There has been bonded debt, and they have not been able to pay all the debt. There was an informal agreement with the last administration that if they couldn't write their checks, that basically the town would step in and, you buy that new Firebird and you promised Mom you were going to pay for it, and you run a little short on the note, and your Mom, I'm a couple hundred short. But
except everybody's driving that Firebird. Okay?
Well, yeah, that's right. So the answer is not, do you pay the bill? Do the 30,000 people pay the bill? Do the businesses pay the bill? Do private individuals pay the bill? The answer is, do Milford pays the bill? It's just a matter of coming up with a fair formulary of how we do it. And we're looking at a bunch of things. I am as a councilman and as a WPCA member, I am absolutely in favor of universal hookup. But that, in answer to the gentleman's problem, is a long-range problem. We may have uncovered money in the town.
You found it.
Yeah, so if anybody has a really tacky pink purse that says Pat on the outside of it, you can claim it down to the mayor's office.
How about the town surplus money? Reserve money. They've used it in the past for completing sidewalks on Main Street in the Milford 10, 12, 15 years ago. When I was an advocate for redoing Railroad Street, they didn't have enough grant money to finish the end of Main Street. And what did they do? They went to the town council, and the town council approved $600,000 or $800,000 out of the town surplus to finish the sidewalk.
Let me say something, Scott. Just let me say something real quick. This year, ladies and gentlemen, 4.3. There's $900,000 this year that should be added to that. That's the difference between what the town paid on the bond and what was reimbursed by the sewer commission. I'm looking to eat that. I'm not looking to add to the debt. I could do that this year because I got control over it. So I could eat $900,000. I could find that. So that 4.3 doesn't become 5.2. But what I can't do is just find $4.3 million, and pull it. I can't pull it out of the surplus because it's part of our surplus. You know what I mean? It's considered surplus. That $4.3 million is sitting in our surplus column saying, this is cash that we expect to get. So the only way to kind of take it off is to say, we're not going to get paid that. We'll take it out of our surplus, like you said. But the town just can't afford to take that kind of a hit. Can't.
Well, and Mr. Mayor, I think it behooves us to say that between the election and the time the current elected officials that are presently sitting took office, the outgoing administration, in the course of 6 weeks, spent $5 million of bonded debt. $5 million.
On what, Mr. Chamberlain?
$3.5 million on turf fields, $1.5 million on a school roof.
So you don't want turf fields and you don't want the school roof repaired?
Yes and no.
We don't need turf fields.
We're getting.
But we're getting. But we are getting.
Can I ask a question or make a statement or whatever you'd like to call it? I'm sorry, you want to go first?
I just
just quickly, I never heard an answer to his question. I know Mayor Gronbach said that it might be 5 years, but I never heard your
I think there is no
estimate.
answer.
But why? Why is, you're the commission, why can't you say we're going to do it in 5 years?
Well, I'm speaking primarily as a council person, and the reason I'm speaking primarily as a council person is because essentially, as the commission is bound by its income. I mean, all they can do is budget the money they have. As a council person, you have more, flexibility than that.
Well, I think the question was, when are the shopping centers going to be required to get hooked up, and how long will that be? So I don't understand who wanted.
The shopping center is hooked up. They're paying a connection.
And the businesses, I think she's talking about.
The other businesses that aren't, that are supposed to.
$400,000 they paid.
What's that?
They paid over $424,000 for that plaza. If he's here, he would be like,
Yeah.
he's paid.
Whoever is along the line.
I'm sorry.
I don't know the details, but the question was, there are people that are along the line that are not hooked up. The estimate from the mayor was it could take 5 years. That's what his ballpark is. I want to hear from the commission what they think it is.
Let me tell you what the commission has, one of the things that they have done to try to rectify this. It's not something that can happen overnight. They have put into our regulations that if you change use, if you do all these things, if you add onto your house, you must connect to the sewer line. We did not have that kind of effort before, and now we have it in our regulations so that we can enforce it. You can't just say connect. You have to do, in order to connect, you have to go through legal procedures in order to do that. This way, they've got it right in our regulations. We still have to go through some legal, but it cuts out a lot of the red tape. But we still have to do it by law, but it's a format that you have to go through. But first, we have to get it in our regulations. It's in our regulations now.
So they only require it if they make any change. So if they make no changes, they're not required.
Or if they're failing. The health department lets us know. If they have a failing system, they have to automatically connect to the sewer line if it's available.
Scott,
That's the opposite of what I'm saying.
So, we're just going to keep going around and around. Like you said, it's a moving target. Yeah, when you're in a business, you understand that you can't force a business to do something. You got to look at it when you're coming in. Whoever these plaza owners that aren't here are here, whatever it is. That doesn't matter. Let's talk about the real near term.
The real world.
I have a question for you. The town is willing to look at the debt that's owed to the town, move part of it, forgive part of it, this, that, and the other. There's a closed door meeting this coming Monday. The commission is a
Come to the meeting.
It's a public meeting.
Yeah.
Because that's
We
where
want you to come.
whatever the increase is going to be discussed, correct?
Right.
So that's really what I care most about. I'm not worrying about the 5, 10, 100 years. I'll be dead in 20 years. I'm not interested. I'm interested in how it affects me today, tomorrow, and next week, and what's going to happen this year to affect our businesses. And that's the way you should feel about your home or your business. What's going to happen now? I could not give any less about what happens in 25 years. I don't care. I have to worry about what's right now. What I want the town to do is figure out a reasonable expectation that they've now changed language so that people hook up and things like that. But there are legal reasons you can't just do something, because now the town will be entangled in lawsuits and spending money trying to enforce things that weren't enforced before. So there is a lot of nonsense that goes along with it. The reality is, I think that people should come next week to the public hearing and say, hey, if there's a reasonable number being floated.
I said $5.30.
The public hearing is not next week. Public hearing is 3 weeks next week.
What's that on 5:30?
And it'll be warned.
We're going to be here all night
Hold on a
trying to
second.
do this, and that's a good thing. But it seems to me that Mayor Brownback had the right idea, and if we follow his recommendations, we'll all get through this. And that seems to me exactly what we should do.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Lori?
I'm Lori Sheesel, I'm attorney for this commission. The commission was trying to solve a problem, and tonight's meeting, to be very clear, is not a required meeting. It was done to get feedback, and that's why we posted it as an informational meeting. Before the commission votes next Monday at its regularly scheduled meeting, which is typically the last meeting in March, is when it votes on what it proposes for the rates. It then goes from there to publication, and then goes from there to what is known as the formal public hearing before the commission votes. So tonight's meeting was done to get input. Monday's meeting will be when the commission, presumably if the commission's ready, it will then choose what it then proposes as the rate schedule, a couple more publications, another public hearing, and then a final vote. So I hope that's clear. There's a question.
Charlene, do you have that date of when we have that public hearing?
It's our next scheduled meeting. I don't have the calendar.
It should be around April 14th, I would
Yeah,
say.
it's a third Monday.
March 21st, and then 3 weeks after that is when we would have to miss them.
I
Is that the time you address future increases, or will you address future increases at that point? Or is, just for the record, because I did hear this, there was no vote on these proposals. These were discussions that we were having informally to look at. Really what you should take out of this, I believe, this is my opinion, is that we have spent that money and somebody has to pay it. And this is the cost that it would be if we had to shoulder the burden. That is a fact of it. It's how do we get it paid is a different story. Like this, I like exactly what this young man's been saying here. You're asking how much time, and that's the question that the sewer commission needs. We need to know that too. We need to know how long it's going to take to get there, and how long do we have to before we're 100% paying our bills.
I have a quick question. How many years is this $1.9 million bond payment going to take? How many more years?
Okay, just
10, 20, 30?
Okay. So where our shortfall is directly.
I'm not talking about the shortfall. I'm talking about the $1.9 million that you are due to pay every year.
Okay,
how many years is that going to continue?
He's answering your question, ma'am. Let him finish.
The plant is where, if you want to call it, there's a shortfall, right? It's how do we pay back the plant, okay? No, it's all the other things that we've talked about, benefit assessments paid for, but this is a capital recovery. And this is where the connection fees would come. Now, it's 2032, and the amount each year is $1.432 million. Each year, $1.4 million goes towards the plant. So, 16 years. It's a 20-year bond with 4 years.
16 years plus the previous.
We're into our 4th year, and we have 16 more years, so the 2032 is our last payment.
Lori, did you have anything else? We have another person on the list to speak is Jeff Sinkowitz.
Sure. Well, thank you very much. For the record, my name is Jeff Sinkowitz, and I see some of my friends and former colleagues here. Scott, so I'm to understand that the Sewer Commission is not in supporting the rates that are listed on the sheet?
Correct.
Okay. I'll make hopefully some salient comments. I don't want to repeat what everyone said. I am not. First of all, I had a client contact me earlier this year to look at the connection fees, and unless you're changing the connection fees, at least at that time, I felt that your connection fees were illegal because they were based on square footage, not on.
You can't hear you back there.
I felt that his connection fees were illegal. The connection fees are illegal because they are based on square footage, not on gallonage. And if you look at your regulations, at least the last set I saw, the regulations said that connection fees are based on gallonage. So, second of all, I'm against universal hookup or mandated hookup to all the property owners. I think that is going to be a huge burden on existing businesses, and it's going to be a potential burden on businesses that want to come into town. Historically, the connection fee that was charged by the Sewer Commission was probably Tommy's and my concoction when the original plant was built. When the, 1992 plant was built.
1987.
1987, well, we're older than I thought. There was a benefit assessment levied against about 1/3 against the existing sewer district for the plant upgrade, for the nitrogen removal, if you will, there was about 1/3 was assigned to septic disposal, and about 1/3 was assigned to new potential users. And if you were, benefit assessments were levied on vacant properties that were, quote, in the sewer district, but not in the original sewer district. But then, if you were outside of that district and you came onto the line, we had a system in place where you could extend the line at your own cost. It was for those people, they would pay a connection charge that was supposed to approximate the benefit assessment that they would have otherwise paid if they came on. So in other words, they didn't get a free ride for the purchase of the capacity. Now, over the years, what happened when the Sewer Commission expanded the lines, now this is not over the years except for the last 12, as they expanded the line, they did a levy of benefit assessment, and it paid for the pipe in the ground. And when they came on, they paid for the capacity. That's what the connection was for capacity. It seems to me that one way, and I hate to say it, I've actually been waiting for years to get a benefit assessment. I'm on the Hill, and I'm in this old sewer district, but it seems to me that at least phosphorus removal, I should pay part of that. And I was always expecting to be benefit assessed. I guess you didn't benefit assess people who were benefited by the sewer plant. Maybe that's something you should revisit. The connection fee, though, I think if you basically force people to pay not only for the pipe in the ground, which I guess are, down Route 7, they're probably paying a benefit assessment for that, and you then say, well, you're mandated to hook up, whether you need it or not, I think that's going to be a tremendous burden, a very big hardship on the residents of the town who, depending on how you look at it, may have the misfortune to be on the sewer line where now you're telling them they got a perfectly good system and they got to hook up. There was a facilities plan when the plant was being considered, and there was a lot of pressure brought to bear on the Sewer Commission by the administration to build the plant because we need the plant there to attract business. So it wasn't just going to be the sewer users who were responsible for that plant. And going down Route 7, there was a facilities plan that looked at that. And there was always a big question as to whether or not the town could pay for that line. Whether the Sewer Commission could pay for that line. Because if you take into account all the wetlands and the restrictions on zoning and what have you, and some of the property that's so to speak tax exempt, there's not enough. There seemed to be not enough property to pay for it at that time. But the town said we want it down there. The administration pushed it, and to some degree, the Sewer Commission said, "Well, sure, why not?" The Mayor Partler's administration got the pipe in the ground for relatively low cost when they built the highway. Obviously, you guys recently put the pump stations into place, but the town should always be picking up a part of it. And I think if you looked at the history, I remember Bill Johnson having a chart, and the chart was always going to be that the Sewer Commission was not going to be able to pay it all back in the early years, and then at the very end, when it got maxed out, that's when there'd be enough money to catch up. So I think you should look at that. There was a facilities plan. What this gentleman was asking about a marketing plan. It really wasn't marketing, but there was a facilities plan. I guess I would like to see, number one, how these fees relate to your operating budget, because basically user fees are supposed to be related to operating budget, not to debt service. I'd like to see the septic fees or the septic disposal fees, how that relates to your operating budget. And I would like to see how the connection fees, that are legitimate connection fees, relate to the operating budget. Yet when somebody changes their use from Jeff Sinkwitz's bed and breakfast to a laundry, I'm going to be using more gallonage. I should probably be paying for gallonage, not for square footage. The square footage is the same. But by the same token, I shouldn't be double dipped. I've already paid for some of that gallonage, and I shouldn't have to pay for it again. So good luck. I think you've got a huge conundrum. I'm just disappointed because this commission used to be so well run, had its finger on the money very well, and I hope you find your way. and work this out. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up is Pete Bass, who's not only on the sewer commission, he's also a town council member.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank the members that are serving currently on this board and the prior members that give their time and their talent as volunteers. I also want to thank Rob. I want to thank the staff that are on the sewer commission. One of the things that was brought here tonight is a lot of innuendo and a lot of bashing of the sewer commission. I can tell you for a fact right now the sewer commission is against these fees. We've been against them all along. This sewer commission has been a commission that's looked to reduce fees because we know we need to bring business into town. Because without business, without you, we don't have anything. We have some people here talking about how the sewer can't pay for itself and needs to pay for itself. Well, one of the things that they forget to say is the budget that we just approved and passed uses waste management funds of $900,000. Huh. What's getting subsidized there? Another thing we talk about here is how we're being political. This body's never been political. Not in a day in its life. You had Mr. Johnson that was on here years ago. Mr. Heaton. One was a Republican, one was a Democrat. Okay? Did they have differences of opinions like we do today? Of course they do. But they, after the meeting, go outside, how's everything going? Like a community. When you start bashing volunteers, you lose the volunteerism. You lose the speciality that this wonderful town has and needs to keep. Now, the question is, how did we come about with these fees? What did we talk about with these fees? Okay? Mayor, you've been involved with these fees.
Never.
Well, right here in the
BS.
right here in the minutes, Mayor.
What minutes?
Let's look at the special
What have I
sewer
said?
committee,
From day
Monday, February 22nd, 2016.
Yeah.
Frank and Rob met with the mayor. The mayor stated the commission needs to repay the bond every year. Rob and Frank expressed the
Pay the
concern.
bond every year, right? What does that mean?
Expressed concern of the user system to represent about 10% of the town's population.
Yeah.
The first meeting you came, Mayor, I was very impressed because you were talking about growing this grand list.
Right.
Because that's what we need to do. When we
How do I stop doing that?
When we talk about adding on,
Yeah.
trying to have the whole users pay the full boat in 1 year, it's too much.
Which full boat? The 4.3 or the 1.7?
1.76.
You got, and first of all, you got $900,000 this year. Did I say that you had to put it in? Am I adding it to the accounts receivable? No. Right? I'm not saying add that. I'm not adding it to it. But where was the sewer commission when this debt continued was at $3 million last year and $2 million the year before that and $1 million before
So
that?
here's
Why do I got to deal with this issue? In 3 months, I got to deal with this? Where were you last year?
Because I can tell exactly where we were, Mayor. Okay? We're trying to all work together in a very difficult circumstance.
This is working together?
We've had 2,000.
This is working together. Thank you for this, everybody. Urgent. Your input is needed based on the recommendations of Mayor Gronbach. I'm basically the devil saying that you got to pay $4.3 million in 1 year.
Excuse me, Mayor.
I ask that we get back to Frank hearing from the public.
What you got to say? Don, you guys have heard me. I'll work for you. Forget these guys.
Wow.
It's not political.
The man of the people.
Wow. Okay. Next we had John Tower.
I'm John Tower. I live in town. I'm an attorney in town. I'm also a town attorney. I'm not here. I'm not being paid. I'm off the clock. I'm here personally. I'm a partner at Kramer and Anderson. I'm a part owner of a business that's on the sewer line. I just had a couple of quick comments that are very small and practical. One is that I do want to thank the commission members for all the work that you guys have put in there. I've been a town volunteer, and you guys spend a lot of time, and I appreciate that, as well as your staff. For those of you who don't know it, Jeff Sinkowitz, an attorney who stood up earlier, we owe him a big thanks as a town because he helped us get the waste management summit fund. notwithstanding the pessimism of some people who actually thought that he shouldn't pursue that case, and I want to thank Jeff for his work. So let me, the 2 points I want to make quickly is that first is very practical and small thing. I don't know a lot about the Sewer Commission's books and records and the finances, but the last several weeks, I didn't even see this meeting coming, but the last several weeks I've seen lots of trucks in town from one company, and it's Milford Septic. And Milford Septic, for all I knew, they were pumping septic tanks into Milford. No problem. I have no problem with that. I endorse New York businesses competing in Connecticut, right? But when someone pumps a tank, they create what's called septage, or sometimes called night soil, and then they bring it to the local plant and they dump it, and you guys process it at a fee. Well, I wasn't really sure about Milford until recently. I was on Route 7, and I was right behind one of the trucks, and I got stuck behind it. And then I was like, okay, I'm stuck. And then it goes on Super 7. And I said, I'm just going to follow this thing. And I followed it. It went through Danbury. It went through Brookfield. It got down to Super 7. It got into 7. And it took it right on Still River Drive. And its wheels on the inside of the turn popped up. So I could tell it was like fully loaded. And I was like, whoa, what's going on here? So I followed the thing down Grove Street, left on South Ave, and left on West Street. Boom, into that plant. And I was like, out-of-state waste. And I have no problem with that. But I reached a conclusion. Milford is 33 miles away. It's on the other side of Brewster. And I said to myself, they drove through Brewster. They drove through Danbury. Drove through Brookfield, and they drove to New Milford because we must have attractive fees. No problem. Here we are talking about a rate structure and fees. We're trying to get fees. I think it may be something to look at is to consider the charges. Maybe you guys want to be attractive, and maybe it's good to increase capacity because it's more efficient. Don't know, but I want to say fast. Second quick point is, remember we heard a lot about accounts receivable. Accounts receivable that the town is tracking. Remember, Joe? The town is tracking accounts receivable from the Sewer Commission. Well, look at the inverse side of that. The inverse side is accounts payable. And be very careful. We have to have audited, accountable books for both a town and a commission. And I don't know if there was a true expectation of payable on your side of those books. So I only want the commission to think about that issue. I'm going to end right there. Thank you very much.
Okay, Rob, could you address, so the community knows, the septage fees and how right now that septage right now is basically keeping this plant operating, and without it would be even more egregious fees?
I would like to say that I sent out a little flyer there just to let you guys know. We were at $160,000 in revenue in 2012. And this past year completed, we did $588,000 in revenue coming in from that. So my message from septage receiving. And so my message has been very consistent. It took a little while for me to realize what was going on, but no, we don't have a lot of gallons coming in, but we can't control that. Our gallons, as you see in that handout, have actually gone down since the facility's planted. They've gone down 10%. Last year we did have a little bit of a hiccup going up. Maybe that's a sign of the economy, because sewage is definitely tied to the economy. You will use more water when the economy is good. All right, it's just a fact. But we have actually been able to really augment our O&M with the amount of septage receiving that we are getting. And I was asked by the commission, analyze this. We did not add one single employee. We have doubled we have about doubled our sludge cost, but that's the septage receiving is 4 times more being brought in than the sludge going out. So we really did analyze that. And also keep in mind that the entire plant was built for this 1.93. And it's very important for me to tell you that is never going to happen. So if you hear that someday we're going to have 2 million, that is not going to happen. Most of that 700 to 900,000 gallons per day that was expected to come to our plant is not in our sewer. It's not in our sewer service area. It will not be coming to us. It's Candlewood Lake. Every property along Candlewood Lake that's, it's I&I, it's cracks in the pipes and things, and a lot of that was already rectified. I mean, our I&I is less than 16%. It's probably around 15%, even in torrential rains. So that septic receiving, it's a number. It is a little lower than Danbury per se. So that's why that gentleman would drive by Danbury to come to New Milford. We also have spent some money there to make sure that we can receive. We have 3 different areas which we can receive that. There are expenses, but we are definitely making a profit. There is no doubt about that. And I would venture to say that at least $300,000 was profit. At least $300,000. And again, I want to go back to the point that our plant was built for a heavier VOD, an organic loading. All right? You guys would not be providing that to us. But guess what? We have all the septage, which we can control. We can put it in tanks as we bring light soil, and we could put it in during the nighttime, which actually is increasing our ability to remove nitrogen. So we're utilizing the plant, and I do let the commission members know. Thanks to Mike Fensman, he kind of prompted me, hey, let us know that we're actually using this plant in the loading. And I used to bring that up with the quarterly meetings that department heads. I would ask them to spread the word. There were summer months where we were using up to 80% of what our plant capacity was in the loading. That's the amount of food that was coming into that plant. So septic receiving is what I would like to tell you is New York State money paying your taxes here in New Milford. I can't imagine a better fit. That every dollar that they spend here is a dollar that you're not putting into this. And I would also like to say that you can't blame me for wanting to raise the rates. We are woefully inadequate in other areas that people don't want to talk about, and that's the future. A lot of these things that have been built were built by the state. I mean, when you look at all those every pump that's out in there in our system is depreciating by the day. Okay, the known depreciation is 1.128 million. Okay, this year, before an election or anything like that, we had come up to the conclusion that we needed to get that depreciation level up. This is what Mr. Pilla has talked about. I've told him I am in 100% unison with him. I mean, we need that up. That's your future debt. We do have a responsibility. I know someone said that they don't want to, 25 years doesn't matter to them, but you are using it now. You are depreciating that now. We do need to expand. We have some pump stations. There's nothing going into them, and it does cost us money. So I think we are very spread out. We have 14 pump stations. O&M fees are maybe a little bit higher, than like a Danbury. If you were looking at Danbury, Danbury's very conglomerated. Everything's on a street. There could be one pipe going down the street, but there's 20 apartments going into that one, or like the big one down there on Kennedy Place is 390 units, I think, 360 units going into that. So if you have that much going into there, and you only have 10 pump stations, you're doing something very efficiently. We have been unfairly compared to Danbury. I would like to add that. Danbury has Brookfield going into a Bethel, Ridgefield. They're taking their money and paying Danbury to do their plan. By the way, Danbury will be going through about $100 million upgrade itself now. They're facing those same limits that we've already gone through. I would like to talk about the nitrogen removal, because even though that we have been averaging somewhere around 60%, as I said, even up to 80% of the loading capacity of the plant, we've actually lowered our nitrogen numbers in the last 3 years. We're not paying. We would be paying right now. I tried to figure it out exactly. They changed the formula a little bit because there were more people. They were selling credits than buying credits. But we used to have to pay. You can call it a fine when the DEP says you have to buy nitrogen credits. It's basically saying you're doing 4 jobs removing nitrogen. Here's $80,000. I believe right now that would be $180,000 based on the numbers that I saw coming out this year. And that would have just kept growing. So every year, so in 5 years, let's say, that would have been $1 million right there we would have paid in fines. Those are some of the things that were on my mind. We do need to honor that depreciation. But Mayor Gronbach is right. We do have a debt problem. And I don't know how, we looked at it some of the operational measures and things, and we have twice as much debt than we do have revenue. So we do have a problem. But the economy had a lot to do with that. We're planning an upgraded plant. It needed to be bigger, but it also needed to be bigger, 50% bigger, just to do the nitrogen and phosphorus removal. You have various selector zones. You need extra detention time. You need extra tanks. There's a different configuration. It takes more energy. All of these things are factored into that plant. So if I were to give my unofficial educated opinion on it, I'd say about a third of what we paid probably was for the gallons. A third of it was because the plant needed a major overhaul, and the other third was because we were woefully behind in that biological nutrient removal. And that was something the state is not going to let us. In fact, it's going to. I hate to tell you, but I keep hearing it's going to get more stringent with the phosphorus. I mean, they're going to put some really tough numbers together, and that's something I'd actually ask you to, reach out to your senators, state senators, your congressmen, and let them know.
This is federal you're talking about?
Well, the EPA but it would be to the DEP, and now they're talking about getting phosphorus. They're talking about setting up like a nitrogen credit, be like a phosphorus credit, and you'd have to get it down to 0.1. We do a pretty good job there, but then that means added costs and chemicals to get that done. And there's a lot of communities that it's going to cost them a fortune. I mean, it would cost you a fortune.
Sounds like a federal.
Well, Raj would continue to talk about nitrogen all night. I think we need to get back to the theme.
So we have Miguel who would like to speak. He spoke earlier to the mayor. He's on to speak to the commission.
Thank you. Commission, fellow residents, neighbors. Without getting emotional, my questions are the following. Is there a way for this to be on the record? Is there a way for when you guys have your actual meetings, since the intent of this meeting is just informational, can you provide us either with a glide path or a flow chart as far as what is your projected time frame for us as a team? And what I mean by team, the actual town, which their share is going to be based on the budgeting, based on the commissioning, based on their revenue stream to try to pay down this debt, based on old businesses, projected new businesses, and I know this is not an easy task, and based on residents as far as what is everyone's share. And I understand it's going to be a moving target, but I think if you have some type of chart, and I know with change and the economy going higher or lower, it's going to be plus or minus a couple of years. I think it'll make a lot of people more easier so they can understand the hard work that you guys do to see how you're putting your part into it, how we're putting our part into it, and what the town is doing, and how many years. Because hopefully at some point, since this commission is a form of business, correct? That at some point, once the debt is paid, there'd be a profit margin, because that's why we're in business, to make money. At that time, is it feasible, once you guys get where you want to get to, and that may take 25 years, 30 years, is it like taxes where once we pay more, once the debt is not there, do we continue to pay more? Or does it somehow fluctuate based on real time?
Can I take a reference to that?
If that's possible.
Scott.
Because I know the money has to get paid somehow.
I'd like to address that because I think it's a very smart question. You're looking at two things. One, basically you're talking about the budget scenario that the commission recommends and one that the town implements. So you've got what comes out of the WPCA, and then you've got what ultimately comes out of town council, which is going to be the implementary agency, okay? So that kind of is where it is. The final buck doesn't stop here. Now, as far as the debt situation, I thought that was a really good question, and it's one of the fundamental issues that we are wrestling with. When you hear, borrowing, debt, bonding, all of that kind of thing, and when you hear depreciation or capital budget or things along those nature, those are kind of competing concepts. Essentially, the mayor and some of us on his side of the argument essentially believe that bonding debt is a reasonable way to run the city. I think our brothers across the aisle believe it too, because they bonded and they borrowed basically to fund the operation of a lot of different things. I mean, we're not just talking the sewage agency, we're talking about school roofs, we're talking about roads, we're talking about lots of things. Generally speaking, in municipal governing, if the borrowing period is shorter than the work life of the thing, you're cool. If you've got a 25-year, we were just talking about a transfer station. If you've got a pump that has a 25-year life, issuing a 20-year bond to buy a $1 million pump is not unreasonable. Now, here is where we get into the issue. There are those who say, you know what, we shouldn't borrow, we should start a pay-as-you-go basis, we should start putting money aside for future capital expenses or the depreciation or the wear and tear on stuff. And that's a perfectly reasonable argument. But here is the problem. For the last 12 years, 20 years, whatever, we haven't done that. So and if we start saving now, what we are doing is essentially getting money from you to put in the piggy bank to buy that thing 5 or 10 or 15 years down the road. Now, if you as a community decide that's a good idea, I mean, that's cool. On the other hand, what we have been doing is, if we need that $1 million pump, we get temporary bridge lending till we issue city bonds, and then we have a 20-year bond to buy that pump that should last us 25 years.
I don't believe that's true, actually.
No, that's not right.
Is there, I don't know the.
I think it doesn't.
I don't know the.
Well, I mean, Charlene can address that, because I don't want the public to think that. That's not true. We actually pay for our stuff.
Well,
is there a way?
It has not. Answer me this one question, and I want a straight up answer. What is your reserve fund in the WPCA right this minute? How much do you have? Cash, money?
A little over $500,000, I believe, right, Charlene?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, and that is since when?
And we also did a $700,000 septic upgrade last year that we paid out of that fixed asset replacement. We have always been putting money towards our fixed asset replacement. It's always been in our budget. You can look and see. We've always had it. We did up it to 40% because everybody's realizing we're having something going on all across the West Street pump station. That is 20 years old. It's breaking down. We know that's, if you look into, everybody does the 5-year plan. That's what we're talking about.
And I respectfully disagree. With a 40% increase in 1 year is utterly, totally unreasonable.
It's not a 40% increase. We're increasing it to 40%
Correct.
of the depreciation.
It's always been.
We're getting off topic here.
Mental adjustments, everything.
Is it a realistic request, I guess, based on the commission and based on the time, since we have both parties here? Is there a realistic to have some type of time frame? I know it's hard to do the number crunches, but I'm sure there's smart people in the room that can somehow come together, which the projected, because in every business there's a SWOT analysis, there's what you perceive to be, what you think you're going to get versus what you're not getting, so we can kind of have an idea. And I know it's not going to be perfect. I don't think anyone's going to hold you to it.
Not to cut you off, but working together, as we're all in the process of doing.
Okay.
In the next few weeks, we're going to have to, by mandate, come out with our fee structure.
That's essentially correct. It is going to be a municipal decision. And essentially, I would say, in the end, we listen to you.
Yep.
And what you folks tell us and what you want to do, and we make the best decisions based on what you. It is your call in the end, really. So Miguel, I would say, it's your decision and the decision of your fellow citizens.
But I think what he's asking for is, do you have a budget that says, this is what we're going to spend over these years, this is what we're going to bring in this way, and this is where we're missing money, or this is where we have access? I think that's what he's asking for. Does that exist?
Well,
yes, sir.
Is that available for us, everybody to see?
Well, the answer is, I think, and I think even as much as some of us at this table may disagree with one another, I think we agree with what the problems are.
100%.
We agree with what the numbers
100%.
are. We agree with what the trends are. We agree with what is good and what isn't good and all that.
Is that budget, that information that you guys agree on?
Yes, sir.
Available for us to review?
Yes, sir. Every year we do a budget, and then we approve the budget and then move forward. So we're in the process now of going through that, which is why
before you get that done, you're going to decide what this rate
Correct.
increase is
Correct.
before you get to that.
Correct.
No, the budget's already been done.
The budget's already been done.
It's already been done.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, so the rates come after the budget.
That's what I'm asking.
Correct.
Available to
Yes,
The
sir.
budget is done. The rates are being determined.
You guys know what spiraling inflation is?
Sure do.
You know what that is? Well, what you're talking about is very inflationary, along with everything else. We got to stop it in this country. We're all going to be out of luck.
You obviously haven't been through the Nixon and Carter administrations.
No, Franklin Roosevelt was president.
Remember with inflation now?
We're getting off topic. Off topic. Does anybody else say? Did I sign on this sheet? Or Miguel, did you have anything else? I'm sorry.
No. He said he was going to give me the information, and I think that will resolve a lot of your frustration, I
And
hope.
I'll be happy to give you my number if you want to have any specific questions that weren't answered in tonight's.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Sure.
They want two more people?
By the way, I thank you for your service. I know it's a difficult position, and I'll be quick. I hear a lot of reasonable comments here, which is encouraging. And I've heard people talk about the benefit of the extension and how it benefited the town. It's a possible draw for future business, and I agree with that. And because of that, I think that the greater town should contribute to the funding of this expansion. That's one point. The second point is the idea of increasing your hookups. That's a walking on eggshells kind of a question. I understand that, and I hope you do something there. I don't think it could be 100%, but something. And the third thing is that while this, I really think there's a good attitude among the community, and I think that if you take this opportunity, to work with this reasonable community, I think, so in other words, I hope you're listening, and I hope you modify what we've been hearing as far as proposals. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Samantha?
Hi, my name is Samantha Butts, and my husband and I own a multifamily dwelling in Milford. And so we came because we just were concerned, obviously, when we got the fire, and it was such a huge rate increase. And so I would just like to say that I personally think we are concerned about the impacts, obviously, of such a bit. Not that we don't understand that there's a problem and that we have to have some increase, but that the impact of such a huge rate increase. Because we do have tenants, and it's like our only investment. It hasn't been a good investment, and so we would have to pass the cost down to our tenants, who I know can't afford a $100 a month rent increase either. So I just ask that it be tempered, and that my other idea was what the gentleman before me just spoke was, the whole town does benefit when they come to town and get to use the sewer. So maybe there can be some, one-time special assessment or some kind of thing done to help defray the cost.
Thank you.
I'm William Butts, and it would appear to me that the problem is huge. And for it to be fixed, the town officials are going to have to take their responsibility for it. They were for the project. The town needs to pay for the project. It can't fall entirely on this commission because they don't have that much money. The town considerably has more money than the commission. The commission's on a fixed income, if you will. The town is also on a fixed income, but a much larger one. You voted it through. Figure out a way to pay for it. Not us. We're already going broke paying for all the taxes that we pay. We can barely make ends meet. And when I say barely ends meet, I'm working 2 jobs so I can take money out of my pocket to pay what my tenants can't afford to pay. So we need to fix it. You need to work with these people. They're working with you. The mayor walked out of here. He's not working. He's not a team player.
Well,
I served 27 years in the Navy. We had green checkbooks and blue checkbooks, but they all belonged to the Navy.
Thank you for your
And you paid the bills with both checkbooks.
I would just point out that I am the only Democrat on the Pollution Control Commission.
No.
That's not true.
No, John Heaton.
John Heaton's a Democrat.
Not officially, no. No.
We don't care.
On the sewer commission, there
We
is
don't
one.
care.
There is
Wait a minute. We don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican. That's not the issue here. Not political. It's dollars.
But it
It's
is
dollars.
Of course it is. Ultimately, it is a matter of dollars and
always
cents.
dollars.
However, when we're talking about the ability to effectuate change, when our charter as a town was written, it was written so that this panel, this commission, would be a 6-member commission. It was written that way. And it was written that it be bipartisan, that there would be 3 Republicans on that panel and that there would be 3 Democrats. That's our town charter. Now, recently, in the last decade, that was changed. And people voted to make it representative so that the Pollution Control Commission would represent politically what the town did. Therefore, we have a situation where we have Republican control of this panel and we have Democratic control of the town council. That's a reality. I mean, it just is what it is. It doesn't mean that we don't talk to each other. It doesn't mean that we don't work together. But we have certain different beliefs, one of which is over depreciation. Another is how much the end users should pay, how much this is.
Excuse me, I got to interrupt you for a minute, but I'm sorry. I got to interrupt. The deficit of money has nothing to do with politics. It has to do with how things were purchased, bonded, spent, this, that, and the other. I understand what the commission is up against. I think the bottom line is, and by the way, I do care about 25 years down the road, I'm saying that's in a reasonable amount of time to make that change. What this commission is wrangling with is what are we going to do this year, in the very near term. We need some time to figure out what's going to happen over the long term. I understand that. But the residents right now want to know about now. There was cars with airbags invented in the 80s, and now we have keyless entry systems. Let's not worry about the politics of the past or what's going on now. Everything is going to change and evolve. But the commission, I think, is being battled tonight, including from me, because if there was misinformation, somebody put it out there. But the reality is there's a debt that has to be paid. The commission is wrangling with that. We as business owners, operators, and residents of the town don't really care, and you want to know why Trump's leading, about the politics of it all. Work the numbers. Because as business operators and business owners, that's what matters. Is what is it going to cost us and how is it going to impact us? And for us as a business operator who loves doing business in this town and supports entities all over the place, whether it's fundraisers and restaurants and other things, that is going to affect us completely.
I would just like
the politics of it don't matter.
I would just like to disagree with one, just by way, I would just, if I may, I would just like to disagree with one point the gentleman previously made. He said, government is just like a company. Government isn't like a company because companies are there for the benefit of their ownership or stockholders. Government is here for the benefit of everyone. So the question is, not do we do something or not do something. The question is, how do we make this work for the overall good of the community of New Milford as each of us sees it?
Agreed, but why interject the politics of it? Because basically it's about money right now. It has nothing to do with affiliation.
Well, no,
Say to everyone tonight,
because people
and all
see
the residents,
things.
People are frustrated because it becomes
People
a political
see
thing. I
things.
think that the mayor was infantile in leaving.
People see things. People see things differently.
We're going to make a new one with a pacifier. that was
well.
Can we stick to the issue, please?
So, all right. This was an informational meeting. Hopefully, you got some answers. Any other questions that anybody has about this?
Make sure the meeting, everyone knows.
Were you going to say something back there? Yeah.
One more question.
One more question.
Actually, I have a question and a sort of statement. I don't have a business. I've lived here all my life. I've been in the same house. I've been on the sewer since it started. And my question, I guess, is when there's an extension coming up, when there's going to be an expansion, everybody in the town gets to vote on it, but we're the ones that usually end up putting a large portion of the bill. And I find that unfair. The whole town can vote for it. Of course, they're going to vote for something that's not really, it's going to benefit them, but they're not really going to pay for it.
I'd like to say that's the most valid thing that has been said this entire night.
I just find it very frustrating that every time, and there's been expansions, and I voted no, we shouldn't expand this because it only benefited certain people. They were all there, they weren't on the sewer, they voted yes, it passed. We ended up paying for it again. Route 7, and this is where the other thing comes in. The DEP, wants us to be properly putting everything in so it's all good. Why isn't the DEP making the owners of properties, and I know this is a sore spot, so I'm not going to, go one way or the other, along the line putting it on. As far as I know, that's an aquifer that runs down Route 7. Why should we still have sewage dumping into it when the sewer line runs down there?
Those are good. It's a very good question, but I would also say that I moved to New Milford 24 years ago, and I've been paying taxes to support the schools of New Milford, even though my children are long since gone. And I support the schools of New Milford, even though I like to think that I get benefit from the schools in New Milford, even though my kids aren't in them. I would just throw that out.
No, and I realize that, and I don't have a problem with it, but if we're all benefiting from it, and I believe the kids are getting a good education, so they're going to reinvest in the town as a business, so that's viable. But again, only people that are sending their children to school aren't the ones that are paying for it. And when the sewer gets expanded and the state makes us upgrade it, it seems like the majority of the money then falls on us. The town sort of backs out. They all want to vote on it. They all want the benefits, but they're not sharing equally. I don't mind paying certain rates for the usage, but I do mind paying for again and again and again every expansion that we have to do, and then we have to upgrade the plant because now we've got more sewage coming in. So that's basically just what I'm saying.
Is there anybody else in closing? I don't want anybody to leave here feeling that they didn't get information that they needed or a question answered.
Just real quick. I've lived in this town for almost 30 years. Okay? I love New Milford. I do. But it's hard. We're on Social Security. Social Security didn't give us an extra dime this year.
Yep.
And to have a part-time job on top of it to try to make ends meet, this is a killer. It's just one more bite out of you. It hurts.
Yeah.
It hurts.
I hear you.
Anybody else? Sir? The public hearing that some of you had asked about for once the rates and fees are going to be presented to the public after our meeting on Monday, that is the meeting you'd want to go to. Our regular monthly meeting, You can't attend it. It's public participation in the beginning. But once the meeting starts, there's no participation. So I would suggest you come to the April 18th meeting, which is public hearing for the new rates and charges.
Where will it be?
Be in this room here, I believe.
Yeah.
Can't get a bigger room.
I believe the minutes are posted online.
So April 18th is when you'll be discussing the rate.
And then after that meeting, we vote on the rates.
Okay.
Sure. Same time, yes, 7 o'clock.
I want to thank you all for your time. Appreciate all that you're
Thank you.
Thank you. I agree with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.